Welcome to the Kubus podcast. In each episode, we will be meeting the individuals who can give us real insight into the problems, solutions, and people in our technology industry.
Hi, welcome to the Kubus podcast. I'm Amy Piatek, and I'm joined here today by Matt Bland, who's our public sector team lead here at Kubus, and Nick Bloomfield, who is a major account manager at Juniper. So welcome. I'm going to ask you both this question, but we'll start with you, Nick. How did you get into tech?
It's a great question. So 2010, graduated from university, was looking for a career path that would give me a lot of development, always been quite interested in technology. So went through a graduate recruitment scheme and arrived at an organisation called Juniper Networks, and that was my first inception into enterprise networking and the technology space.
And Matt?
My first sales role was working for a SaaS provider, or just online as it was then, as it was the proliferation of AWS and Azure came afterwards. So I was working a lot in technology at the time, and the particular focus was with local authorities that were looking after primary schools. So my sales career started in tech and focused on public sector.
And you say focus on public sector. Obviously, we've now got a newly formed public sector team here at Kubus, which you are heading up. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've been with Kubus in its various iterations now for 8 years. We've had a number of very key public sector organisations that have worked with us for a long time. Historically, we dealt via other partners who were on frameworks to deliver our services to these guys. And it's essentially just time to start doing it right and doing it for ourselves, so we can be closer to our customers and make sure that we focus on other organisations with similar challenges in the same way as we've looked after our customers these many years.
So we've spoken about why Kubus have now got a public sector team. To turn this on you, Nick, why does Juniper focus within the public sector?
So over the last couple of years, very similar to Kubus, we've seen a huge demand for Juniper's products in the public sector, being really uniquely positioned with our technologies to address some very, very complex outcomes that organisations are looking to achieve, which we started seeing actually mirroring into the public sector. So we had a number of strategic customers in the public sector space, and that team's been formalised over the last 2 years with a significant focus on our go-to-market in the public sector space. We cover the central government, local authorities, fire and blue light, and also NHS as well.
So within those teams of public sector, where does the Juniper technology fit for the challenges that the customers are experiencing?
I think it's pretty pervasive across all, and they all have consistent challenges and themes. So if you were to kind of peel back the challenges that they all map into an overarching issue, which is everyone is trying to do more with less. And budgets in the public sector space, they're never exponentially increasing, but the demand that's being placed on the network is exponentially increasing. And if I compare and contrast it to when I very first joined the technology space in 2010 and several years from there on in, people were very much looking at planning for what might come down the chute in terms of needing to provide services to X number of devices or X number of users. We're really at that inflection point now where there is a vast number of users on the network with multiple devices. I mean, if you just think about what you've got at home, you probably underestimate what's actually connecting to your wireless router at home as a prime example. And we're seeing this across hospitals, central government headquarters, distributed locations, local authority offices. And if we start looking at the demand that's being placed on the network and also the network operators, there's a huge amount of pressure being placed upon the network. So as I said, I think that's where Juniper fits in very, very nicely with our AI native networking platform, which has very much been built from the ground up to support some of these complex challenges that everyone's facing.
So you mentioned there about Juniper having an AI native platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why it's sort of a technology leader in that AI space?
The way I'd very much describe it is we've been built from the ground up since 2016, with AI being a foundational layer of our stack. So we developed and built a unified microservices cloud platform which is addressing really complex use cases across campus networking, wide area networking, and data center and security. If you look at the definition of native and what that really means, it's, we're not coming at this as like an afterthought and using it as a new buzzword. So some of the foundational capabilities that we've had to really focus on end user experiences and improve network operation performance have been there since 2016, and we've got a significant amount of maturity in our AI algorithms to address all these various use cases. A really great case in point is the rise of large language models and ChatGPT that everyone's become accustomed to in the past 12 months. Juniper has embedded Marvis, which is a large language model and a virtual network assistant, to actually proactively ask questions of the network, and that's been inherent in our tech stack for a number of years. So, if we come back full circle to some of those challenges where you've got budgetary constraints, you're trying to deliver more value to users of your network with a lighter footprint of maybe network operations and support, having AI there to augment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, leveraging the right volume of data with the right real-time response on top of the right infrastructure is really the value that we're providing our customers, both in the public sector and private sector as well.
So Matt, when you are speaking to your public sector customers, what is the overriding biggest challenge that you're sort of finding while speaking to them?
I think there's a couple of different facets to some of the things that our public sector customers are saying, and they're fairly common across the different areas between local authorities, blue light. For 15 years, I've been hearing about how funding is always a challenge, particularly in the public body. As Nick said, there's more stuff going on with the network, but when public sector bodies have pretty fixed salaries, they have to compete with the corporate world for intelligent staff of a certain degree of experience. So there is a staffing problem as well as a funding problem there, which dovetails really nicely into kind of the Juniper proposition about how we take organisations from a reactive model where they are battling X thousand amount of devices on any given network. The network is changing every single day. They need experienced people. We can take that in, and with Juniper's automation and AI, we can make that task really, really easy and take them from a reactive model to a more proactive model where problems are being brought to you, saying the software will tell you what I fixed, where your challenges are, where you need to focus, which means the people who are actually working within an environment can do this on a more junior level, and B, a lot more proactively than other technologies may be able to provide that detail to them.
And how, from you in your role as here at Kubus, how can Kubus help those customers within that journey as well?
So Kubus, we've been doing this for about 20 years, where we've been helping organisations move from vendor A to vendor B, or even simply just working alongside their level of experience to deliver things like configuration or installation. So wherever they don't have their own staff, or they feel their staff is better working on a certain area of a network project, our team will come in and we will just augment what they already have or what they don't want to work on as an extension of their teams.
So Nick, to go back to the Juniper being proactive with their technology, do you have any customer case studies that you can share with us today about their challenges and how Juniper has helped them overcome their challenges?
First and foremost, I think the common theme that we're seeing is, as we mentioned at the top end of the podcast, is doing more with less. Okay, so if we're starting to look at what does that mean, most of the strain that's being placed upon network operators at the moment is reactive support tickets. Okay, my Teams call is having poor performance. I'm unable to upload something to to OneDrive. I'm having poor connectivity as I'm roaming around on a voice call.
Down.
The network's down. It's all, the Wi-Fi's bad. These are all comments from a reactive point of view, and what that tends to evolve is a support ticket is created upon the network, and there's a significant amount of strain being placed upon the network. So if we back it up to Juniper's AI native platform, what we're doing is we're capturing all the various telemetry points to understand about the user experience in real time, what's happening. And some of those issues we're actually able to use our AI algorithms to proactively remediate in real time. So what that has seen with a number of government departments that we've been working with, and one that I work very, very closely with, which is the Ministry of Justice, is they've seen in environments where they've been deploying Juniper Networks a 95% reduction in their support tickets on their environment. So what does that then mean? It means that their network engineers and their network analysts are freed up to do more proactive and innovative work on the network rather than troubleshooting something that may have happened 24, 48 hours ago and going back and looking through tranches and tranches of data. And I think a number of NHS trusts that we work with as well, they're using AI to conduct tasks that were very manual. And if you think of the progressive evolution of how network operations has been, we've gone through the era of CLI, we've gone then to dashboards to simplify that data, and we're really at this inflection point now where AI is going to be helping add more value, so you can just get a second eyes and ears on it. So we've got some fantastic examples of where network performance has been an issue, and we've actually been able to identify a break in a Ethernet cable, something that you would never even think to go and look at, but Mist's AI platform is able to identify that. Or we're looking at improving radio resource management, so as roaming's happening on voice calls, we're actually transforming the RF signals and the channels that we're operating on to improve that output.
Packet captures on demand.
Exactly, packet. So it's all about how do we take away the problem, resolve as much as we can with the mature AI algorithms across all the various capabilities that we have, which is reinforcement learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and generative AI. And then actually, as you say, to your point, doing that on demand on their behalf where possible, and acting as that. There's a phrase that a customer of ours uses. With Marvis, we have a network engineer looking at our network 365 days a year, at the weekend when they're not here. As I say, so we've been really privileged to support some really successful transformations and accelerate digital transformation as well in a number of departments. And there's many, many more case studies that we've got on the Juniper website as well that we would suggest people to have a look at.
And Matt, to add to that, do you have any case studies that you're able to share with us within public sector and Juniper?
Yeah, so there's a fire and rescue service that we work with quite closely. We've already migrated the core to a Juniper solution, and we're working on the access layer now. When Mist is implemented there, they look after 2 large areas, and they have a small infrastructure team. So for these guys to have, as Nick said, Mist overlaying on the physical platform, that means they're not going to need to be going out to every single site every single day, wasting petrol time travelling to and from sites when everything can be managed centrally by a much smaller team.
So Matt, you just mentioned Mist, and Mist is a cloud-based solution. Organisations and especially public sector are interested in the data sovereignty.
Yeah.
Can you shed some insight into that?
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Mist is a cloud-based platform, completely leveraging 100% open APIs, microservices architecture, and to deliver the outcomes that we are helping customers achieve, it has to be built on an elastic cloud platform. So we've historically had our services located across secure locations across Europe. Notably Frankfurt, where in Germany there's very stringent legislation around GDPR. But through working with our UK and I customers and seeing the need around data sovereignty and specifically locations within the UK, Juniper has recently launched a UK cloud, which will be supporting Mist here in the UK. So we have a number of customers that are deployed on that, and we'll be transitioning customers onto that over the near future as well. So it's a really unique proposition in the market space as well.
So Juniper and that technology is constantly innovating. So within Mist, what are any new updates or things coming out in that space?
So first and foremost, we're constantly innovating on the platform. So because it's cloud native and using a microservices architecture, we're releasing new features and functionality every 2 weeks, which enables us to keep up with demand from customers and really address complex use cases. We've actually broadened the coverage that Mist has across the Juniper portfolio. So it's historically been supporting our wired, wireless, and our WAN, and we've actually extended that into the data center because we acknowledged that whilst organizations and public sector bodies are leveraging and consuming cloud-based services, they also have mission-critical applications housed in their own data centers, and understanding connectivity and performance issues between the campus infrastructure and the data center is extremely critical. So we've really pushed that out to a pervasive capability. So that was new for 2024. But in terms of if we think about the theme of doing less with more and thinking about lighter IT operations, we actually introduced a concept called Marvis Minis, which is effectively a consistent synthetic testing capability on the network before anyone is even connected. So think of it as maybe like a digital twin of an office, and we're able to stress test the environment before a user connects in the morning. So checking things like, are they able to gain an IP address? Are they able to roam? Really, really innovative that no one is doing with AI in the space, and it's all built upon that foundational layer of data that we're capturing and have been maturing on for the past 7 years. So it's a really, really exciting technology, and I'd highly recommend anyone to take a look at it.
So you've spoken a lot about innovation.
Yeah.
Where do you get that from, and do you ever have any customers that say, look, I really think you should do X, Y, Z? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, customer feedback is, I would say, the most critical thing that you can have when you're developing and innovating on a technology. Ideas are sometimes conceived by engineers that aren't on the front line of the problems that you're trying to address. So Juniper and working with our partners like Kubus, we really make sure that we've got a continuous feedback loop of the demands in the market space, what are the priority challenges and issues, how can we help streamline operational efficiencies, what integrations can we make with other technologies to simplify a solution stack more effectively and efficiently. And we do a lot of things in terms of executive briefing conferences, and very recently we actually just held our Europe Customer Advisory Board, where a large number of Juniper Mist customers congregate together and meet with our leadership on a product and a platform and a go-to-market perspective to discuss what they perceive their challenges to be moving forward, so we can take that feedback loop and build it in. And some of the things I've spoken about, Marvis Minis, that has absolutely come through feedback loops with some of our customers right here in the UK, where they've been discussed in roundtable formats in the executive briefing conferences that we've held with them over a period of time. So we really want to make sure that we're constantly listening to the market and we innovate based upon that market feedback.
And Matt, would you like to comment on that also?
A lot of what we do ties into Juniper's organisation. So when we're speaking to organisations, we make sure that the Juniper team are aligned to the customer for feedback through ourselves and through our technical team. We would point them to a very, very active Mist community, which is online, which is where a lot of these requests are generated into development. And we also have access to the executive briefing conferences globally, so we can take customers to go and meet the engineers and senior leadership from Juniper to discuss their ideas directly. I have seen organisations that will build their own templates for onboarding multiple Mist sites, and within a week, Juniper had released that as an official part of the Mist product. So there are people out there listening, as well as being directed through Kubus and through Juniper to the product sets.
And finally, I'm going to ask you guys some quick fire questions. So Nick, describe Juniper in 5 words.
Laser focused on user experience.
Okay. And Matt, how would you describe Kubus in 5 words?
Efficient and accurate when needed.
Nick, why Juniper for public sector?
So market leading technology that's very well positioned to help any public sector organisation build their network for the next 10 years.
Matt, why Kubus for public sector?
Not only do we have the skill set in supply chain to make sure our public sector organisations get equipment quickly, but we can also take them from technology A to technology B, whether that's a migration or an integration project, very, very quickly. And then we can also provide managed services on top of those new solutions, so we can do as much or a little of a project as they need.
Well, thank you so much, Matt and Nick, for joining me. So join us next time for another Kubus podcast.
Thank you for joining us at the Kubus podcast. We hope you enjoyed the chat. Remember, there are more conversations in the series. Just search for Kubus wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe.